This isn't who you are. This is who you were turned into. That version of you see in the mirror, the one that doubts, hesitates, overthinks, that's not original. That's built piece by piece, day by day. Without you noticing, nobody sat you down and said, we're gonna change who you are. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they shaped your environment and your environment shaped you. The things you watch, the music you repeat, the people you follow, the standards you compare yourself to, you think you chose all that. But look closer. Did you really? Or did you just adapt because that's how it works now? No chains, no force, no pressure you can see, just influence. Constant, silent, precise influence. They don't tell you what to think. They show you what normal looks like until you start thinking the same. They don't tell you what to want. They show you what's valuable until you start chasing it. And by the time you realize it, you're already living a life that doesn't even feel like yours. That's the scariest part. Not control, transformation. You don't even notice what you've lost. The edge you had as a kid, the curiosity, the hunger, the ability to sit in silence without needing something to distract you. Now you need noise. You need stimulation. You need validation. Not because you're weak, but because you were trained that way. And yeah, it feels like choice. That's the trick. It always feels like you chose it. But if millions of people end up thinking the same way, wanting the same things, living the same patterns, that's not coincidence. That's design. You're not just living in the system. The system is living in you. And until you see that, you'll keep trying to fix your life from inside a version of yourself that was never really you. Tell me something. When was the last time you felt like yourself without influence, without noise, without needing something external to feel okay? Exactly. That silence, that discomfort, that's not emptiness. That's what's left of you. And most people run from it because facing it means realizing something uncomfortable. You didn't lose yourself. You were slowly replaced. You think it's random, but it's not. Every habit you have was reinforced. Every distraction you run to was made easier than discipline. Every time you chose comfort over effort, it wasn't just you, it was a system designed to reward that choice. Look at your day. You wake up and before your mind even has a chance to think, you reach for your phone, not because you decided to, but because it's automatic. That's conditioning. You scroll, you consume, you compare, and without realizing it, your standards start shifting. What you think is normal changes. What you think is success changes. What you think you should look like, act like, achieve, none of that comes from you anymore. It's fed to you, repeated to you, programmed into you. And the more you consume, the less you question. That's the loop. That's the trap. Because the goal was never just to control what you do. The goal is to control what you want. Once they control that, they don't need to force anything. You'll do it yourself. You'll chase what they showed you. You'll measure yourself against standards they created. And worst of all, you'll blame yourself when you don't reach them. You'll think you're not enough, not disciplined enough, not focused enough, not good enough. But how can you win a game where the rules were never yours? How can you feel complete chasing something that was designed to keep you chasing? That's why you feel stuck. Not because you're lazy, because you're overloaded, too much noise, too many inputs, too many directions pulling you at the same time. And in the middle of all that, you lost clarity. You lost direction. You lost yourself. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. It's not gonna stop. This doesn't slow down. It gets stronger, smarter, more precise. The algorithms learn you, they study you, they adapt to you. So the longer you stay unconscious, the deeper it goes, the more it shapes you. Until one day you wake up and realize you've been living on autopilot, years pass, time gone, potential wasted, and it doesn't feel like you were controlled. It feels like you just lived. That's the danger. That's how it wins. Not by force, but by invisibility. Not by pressure, but by comfort. And if you don't break that loop, it will run your entire life. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because at some point, you have to stop blaming the system and look at yourself. Yeah, the system is real. The influence is real. The manipulation is real. But the moment you see it and still choose to stay the same, that's on you. Nobody wants to hear that part. It's easier to say this is how things are than to admit you're participating in it. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you're reinforcing it. Every time you avoid discomfort, you're feeding it. Every time you know what you should do and don't do it, you're confirming the version of you they built. That's the harsh truth. You're not just affected by the system, you're cooperating with it. And the worst part is, you know it. You feel it in those small moments. When you say, I'll start tomorrow, when you say just one more scroll, when you say it doesn't matter, that voice, that's not you at your strongest. That's you trained to stay where you are, because growth feels uncomfortable. Silence feels uncomfortable. Discipline feels uncomfortable. And you've been conditioned to avoid all of that. So you stay in what's easy, what's familiar, what's numbing. But understand this, everything you want is on the other side of what you've been avoiding. Clarity is on the other side of silence. Strength is on the other side of resistance. Identity is on the other side of questioning everything you've accepted as normal. And that's why most people never get there. Not because they can't, but because they won't go through that discomfort. They'd rather stay distracted than face themselves. They'd rather stay entertained than feel that internal pressure that tells them something needs to change. And time keeps moving. Days turn into months. Months turn into years. And slowly, that version of you that could have been something more fades. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, just little by little, choice by choice, until one day you look back and realize you didn't lose because you couldn't win. You lost because you never really fought back. And if you think this is just about discipline, you're still not seeing it clearly. This goes deeper than habits. This is identity. Because once they shape how you think, how you react, how you see yourself, they don't need to control your actions anymore. Your actions will follow automatically. You'll hesitate when you should move. You'll doubt when you should trust yourself. You'll stay quiet when you should speak. Not because you decided to, but because that's who you've been turned into. A version that second guesses everything. A version that needs approval. A version that's more comfortable fitting in than standing out. And that's how control becomes permanent. Not outside, inside. You start filtering yourself before the world even does. You start holding back ideas, words, moves, before anyone can judge you. You censor yourself. You shrink yourself. You dilute yourself. And then you wonder why nothing changes. But how can it? You're not even showing up as who you really are. You're showing up as a safe version, a control version, a version designed not to disrupt anything. And the system loves that version of you. Because that version doesn't question, doesn't resist, doesn't break patterns. It just exists, quiet, predictable, easy to manage. And here's the truth, most people avoid, you can feel it. You can feel when you're holding back. You can feel when you're not being real. You can feel when you're living smaller than you should. That tension inside you, that frustration you can't explain, that's not random. That's the gap between who you are and who you're allowing yourself to be. And the longer you ignore that gap, the bigger it gets, until it turns into regret. Not loud regret, not dramatic regret, just a quiet realization that something was always off and you never fixed it. That's how people end up living lives that look fine from the outside, but feel empty on the inside. Because they adapted so well to the world, they forgot how to be themselves. And once that happens, getting yourself back isn't easy. Because now you have to unlearn everything that made you acceptable just to become real again. At some point, you have to ask yourself a real question. Who are you without all of it? Not the roles, not the image, not what people expect from you. Strip all that away. No validation, no audience, no comparison, just you. Most people can't answer that. Not because they're stupid, but because they've never been alone with themselves long enough to find out. The moment silence appears, they feel it. Music, scrolling, messages, anything to avoid that space, because in that space, there's no distraction, no identity to perform, no version to maintain, just truth. And truth is uncomfortable when you've been living disconnected from it. You start noticing things you ignored. The way you act to be liked, the way you hold back to avoid rejection, the way you shape yourself depending on who's watching. That's not freedom, that's adaptation. And the more you do it, the further you get from something real. You become flexible but empty, able to fit anywhere but belonging nowhere. And that's why even surrounded by people, you can feel alone, because nobody actually knows you. Not fully, not honestly. They know the version you present, the version you adjusted, the version that's acceptable. And over time, you forget the difference. You start believing that version is you, but it's not. It's just the safest way you learn to exist. And safety has a cost. It kills authenticity. It kills expression. It kills the parts of you that don't fit the mold. So you start cutting pieces of yourself off, slowly, quietly, until what's left is manageable, but incomplete. And here's the part. Nobody says out loud, you can succeed like that. You can build a life, make money, gain status, get recognition, and still feel off. Still feel like something's missing. Because success built on a version that isn't real never feels fully yours. It feels like you're playing a role you can't step out of. And the longer you stay in it, the harder it becomes to remember what was real in the first place. And this is where most people break, not physically, but internally. Because there comes a moment when the distraction stops working the same way. The things that used to entertain you don't hit the same. The validation that used to feel good feels empty. The routine that once felt normal starts feeling heavy, and you don't understand why. Nothing changed on the outside, but something shifted inside you. That's awareness starting to wake up, and it's uncomfortable because now you can see it, the patterns, the repetition, the way your days blur together. Wake up, consume, react, repeat, and once you see it, you can't fully unsee it. That's the point where you have two options. Go back to sleep or go deeper. Most people go back. They increase the noise, more scrolling, more stimulation, more distractions. Because facing it requires something they've been avoiding for a long time. Responsibility, not blame. Responsibility. There's a difference. Blame keeps you stuck. Responsibility forces you to act, because once you see clearly, you can't keep pretending you don't know. You can't keep saying this is just how life is. You know, it's not. You feel it's not. And that creates tension, real tension. The kind that doesn't go away with entertainment, the kind that follows you when everything gets quiet, and that tension is a signal, not a problem. It's telling you something is out of alignment. The way you live and what you actually want are not the same anymore. But here's the truth. Seeing it is just the beginning. Awareness doesn't change your life. Action does. And action, real action, requires breaking patterns. It requires doing things that feel unnatural at first. Sitting in silence when your mind wants noise. Focusing when your brain wants distraction. Moving forward when everything in you wants to stay comfortable. That's where people stop. Not because they can't, but because it's unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels wrong when you've been conditioned to stay in what's easy. But understand this, the moment you start choosing differently, even in small ways, you interrupt the pattern. And once the pattern breaks, you start taking control back. Not all at once, not dramatically, but step by step, choice by choice. And that's how you rebuild something real. And when you start breaking those patterns, something strange happens. At first, it feels like you're losing control, not gaining it. Because everything you were used to starts resisting you. Your mind pushes back. Your habits pull you back. Your environment tries to drag you into the same loops. You'll feel it, that urge to go back to what's easy. That voice telling you just this once. That discomfort when you sit in silence and there's nothing to escape into, that's not weakness, that's withdrawal. You're detaching from a version of yourself that was built over years, and it doesn't go quietly. It fights to stay alive because that version is predictable, safe, familiar. Even if it's limiting, even if it's empty, it knows how to survive there. But growth doesn't happen in survival. Growth happens in friction, in resistance, in moments where you want to quit, but don't. And this is where most people misunderstand the process. They think once they become aware, everything should feel clear, easy, natural. It's the opposite. It feels messy, unstable, uncertain, because you're stepping out of autopilot for the first time. You're making conscious choices instead of reacting. And that takes energy, it takes focus, it takes presence. Things most people have lost. But here's the shift. The more you do it, the more you realize something. You're not losing yourself. You're meeting yourself again. The real version. The one that doesn't need constant stimulation. The one that can sit, think, decide. The one that doesn't depend on external validation to move. And that version feels different. Not louder, not more aggressive, just clear, grounded, present. And once you feel that, even for a moment, you can't ignore it anymore. Because now, you know, there's something real under all the noise, something solid, something yours, and that changes everything. Because now it's not just about escaping the system, it's about reconnecting with yourself. And once that connection starts, you stop needing as much from the outside. The noise loses power. The distractions lose grip. And for the first time in a long time, you start feeling in control again. And here's the part nobody talks about. When you start seeing clearly, you start separating. Not because you want to, but because you can't unsee it anymore. Conversations feel different. The things people laugh about, chase, complain about, start feeling repetitive, surface level, empty. You're there, but not really there. You listen, but something in you doesn't connect the same way. And that creates distance. Not loud distance, quiet distance. The kind that grows slowly. The kind you don't even know how to explain. Because how do you tell someone you've changed without sounding like you think you're better than them? So you stay quiet, you observe, you pull back a little. And that's where the loneliness hits. Not because you're alone, but because you don't feel understood anymore. You don't fit the same spaces the same way. The version of you that used to match that environment doesn't fully exist anymore. And now you're in between. Not who you were, not fully who you're becoming yet. And that space is uncomfortable. There's no clear identity, no solid ground, just transition. And most people can't handle that. They go back to old habits, old environments, old versions of themselves. Not because it's better, but because it's familiar. Because at least there, they know who they are. Even if it's not real, even if it's limiting. But if you stay in that in-between, if you don't escape it, something powerful happens. You start building a new identity, not based on influence, not based on expectation, based on awareness, based on choice. And it takes time. It's not instant. There's doubts. There's moments where you question everything, where you feel like you're losing direction, but you're not. You're shedding what was never yours. And that process is quiet. No applause, no recognition, no validation, just internal shifts nobody sees. And that's why it's real, because it's not for show, it's for you. And the longer you stay in it, the stronger it gets, the clearer it gets. Until one day, you're not in between anymore. You just aligned. And once you reach that point, there's no going back to how you used to live. Not because you can't, but because it doesn't make sense anymore. The same distractions feel shallow. The same conversations feel empty. The same patterns feel obvious. You start seeing everything for what it is. Not in a negative way, in a clear way. You understand why people stay stuck. You understand why the system works. You understand why it's so easy to fall into it. And for the first time, you stop taking it personal. You stop blaming yourself for everything. But at the same time, you stop excusing yourself to, that's the balance. You see the influence, but you also see your responsibility. And that changes how you move. You become more intentional, more precise. You don't react the same way. You don't chase everything that appears. You don't give your attention so easily, because now you understand your attention is the entry point. Everything starts there. What you focus on shapes what you think. What you think shapes what you do. What you do shapes who you become. And most people give that away without realizing it. They let anything take their focus, any notification, any trend, any distraction. And over time, that builds a life they never consciously chose. But you don't move like that anymore. You start protecting your focus, your time, your energy, not in an extreme way, in a conscious way. You choose what enters your mind. You choose what you engage with. You choose what deserves your attention. And that alone separates you, not in status, in awareness. Because now you're not just reacting to life, you're directing it step by step, choice by choice, without needing noise, without needing approval, without needing to prove anything to anyone. And that's real control. Not the illusion they sold you, real control. The kind that starts inside and reflects in everything you do, and now you see it. Not as an idea, not as motivation, but as something real. You see how easy it is to drift, to get pulled into patterns you never chose, to slowly become someone you never decided to be. And the truth is, most people will stay there, not because they're incapable, but because it's comfortable. Because it doesn't require awareness. It doesn't require effort. It doesn't require facing anything real, but you're past that point now. You've seen too much to go back to sleep. And that comes with responsibility, not pressure, responsibility. Because once you see clearly, every choice matters more. Every action counts more. Every distraction becomes obvious, and every moment of discipline becomes powerful. This is where it shifts from understanding to action. Not big dramatic action. Small, consistent decisions. Choosing focus when it's easier to scroll. Choosing silence when it's easier to distract yourself. Choosing truth when it's easier to perform. That's how you rebuild. That's how you take control back. Not by fighting the system directly, but by no longer feeding it through your own behavior. Because the system doesn't run without participation. And most people are participating without even knowing it. But you're aware now, and awareness changes the rules. It gives you the option most people don't use, to choose differently, to move differently, to live differently, not perfectly, consciously. And over time, that compounds. Those small choices turn into a different mindset. That mindset turns into different actions. Those actions turn into a different life. Not instantly, not overnight, but undeniably. And one day you look around and realize something simple but powerful. You're not the same person you used to be. Not because life changed, but because you did. Because you stopped running on autopilot. Because you stopped accepting everything as normal. because you finally took ownership of your attention, your actions, your direction. And that's the part nobody can fake, nobody can give you, nobody can take from you. That's yours. And once you build that, you don't need the illusion anymore. You don't need constant validations. You don't need to chase what everyone else is chasing, because you're no longer trying to become something. You're finally being something real.